Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and this is a list of prepping items to get now for 2025. I figured by doing this, it might help people who are setting goals for next year based on some of the things we learned from this year. Now, of course, some of these items will be listed in the description with links that can help you find them more easily. And if there aren't links associated with the items, most likely they're available from the biggest supporter of the channel, which is MidwayUSA. And thanks to them, I can make videos like this one and give you good information that can help you out here in the future while also providing you with a great source of preparedness related equipment. So a big thanks to MidwayUSA. Now, the first thing on this list is actually to get Starlink. Now, here's one of the things I want to talk about really quick. I have some of the things on this list already, and I'm missing some of them as well. And these are some of my goals too. But a couple of them I picked out that I already have taken care of to just share a good idea with you so that way you have something to shoot for. So I just wanted to mention that really quick. And Starlink is one thing that I do not personally have, but it is something that we've seen deployed in disaster zones all over the world. We know that they've been used in Eastern Europe. We know they've been used in the Hurricane Helene disaster recovery zone. And there's a lot of reasons why having Starlink is a good idea. It's mobile, it's easy to use, and it gives you internet access just about anywhere. Now, the reason most people hesitate, myself included, is because it requires a monthly plan. However, there is a 30-day money-back guarantee where you order the equipment, test it out, and if it doesn't work for you, you can just send it back. So that is something to consider. But the other thing is that if you need it, you really need it. And so it might be worth having that additional monthly payment to have that form of communication easily accessible during any emergency, no matter where you go or where you are. So Starlink is the first thing on the list when it comes to prepping items that I would get now for 2025, because clearly it's been very useful in very many different arenas. So the second thing on this list is going to be in that same vein, right? We've learned a lot over this past year, especially related to global conflict, related to natural disaster relief efforts, and everything else that includes preparedness. So the second thing on this list is going to be satellite communications. And that's something that I'm still lacking in as well, but I do already have plans in motion for achieving that goal. Now, satellite communications allow you to use your cell phone or a secondary device regardless of where you are. You could be in the middle of the woods and still send a text message or place a call. And of course, in an emergency situation, that could be the difference of life or death. So one suggestion I have that's relatively affordable, but still comes with a monthly plan, which is kind of the drawback of a lot of these systems, but it's just the way it is the Garmin InReach. Now, what's cool about this device is I believe it's around $300, right? But once you have it, you have a monthly plan that you can do at a very basic level, which makes it more affordable. And it allows you to send text messages as long as it's hooked up to your phone to just about anywhere on the planet. So as long as you have friends or family that are logged into the Garmin InReach app, you can then send them messages. So if you know you're going to be leaving some area for an extended period of time, maybe you're going on a hiking trip or something, and you're worried about having an emergency where there's no cell service, you can do the same thing you would want to do in the sense of calling for help with the Garmin InReach, and it doesn't matter if there's cell service or not. So that's something that I would definitely look at as a possible option that's not super expensive, but gives you that capability. So check out the Garmin InReach, but also just look at your other satellite communication options. We're seeing it all over the world right now that that's a very important thing to have access to. Okay, so the third thing on this list, and something else that we've learned quite a bit from this previous year that I've already advocated for quite often, but I think is still something worth expanding upon, is going to be power stations. And that's like what you see right here with these EcoFlow power units. What they allow you to do is have mobile power wherever you are, and then they're rechargeable in many different ways. They can be charged from your vehicle's battery, they can be charged from a wall outlet, they can be charged from solar panels. So it gives you some options, but what we're finding is that if you get out into a disaster area with something like Starlink, you still need a way to power it. And these allow you to power devices like that. Not to mention your satellite communications can also be powered by these devices. And having them large enough to help you out in emergencies at home, like what this Delta 3 Plus would be able to do in the sense of running larger appliances and storing a lot more power, but then still having the capability of grabbing it and throwing it in your vehicle is a good idea. And then this River 3, which is a new unit as well, is much more portable, very lightweight, has a decent capacity, but it allows you to have at least some secondary power source no matter where you are. And if we're talking about something like a satellite communications device that works in tandem with your cell phone, A device like this can keep that up and running for quite a bit, which allows you to keep those communications going in a crucial time. So for emergency preparedness purposes moving into 2025, I'm expanding my power bank situation, including having more mobile options, and I definitely suggest everyone else do the same. If you go in the description, there will be links to these products down in the description and in the pinned comment, and there is a discount code currently going on for now into, the near future that is 24EFBF Magic. I didn't make it up, which saves you 7%. So check that out. But obviously, if these aren't in your price range or you're not interested, shop around and find other products that might work better for you. But EcoFlow has been a partner of the channel for a long time. And honestly, I've had good experiences with their products, so I don't have any issues recommending them. Now, you have the ability to power your satellite communications. You have the ability to power your Starlink as well. And if you are in a disaster zone, communications are pretty much the difference. That's what we're finding out very strongly here over this previous year. So another thing that is important in a disaster zone is self-defense. And of course, you're not always home when things happen, right? And we know, based on what's happening in Eastern Europe right now, that some disasters are man-made and extremely dangerous. So one thing that I would suggest getting as a prepping item moving into 2025 is going to be a concealed carry license, or whatever it is your state or your municipality might call it. A CWL, a CCW, whatever they call it, I would suggest getting one. Why? Well, first off, look, I carry a pistol everywhere. It's just what I do. And where I live in North Dakota, we have constitutional carry. But I still have a Class 1 concealed carry permit, which allows me to carry in 36 other states as well. So if I do travel, I can still defend myself regardless of where I am, as long as I choose my travel locations judiciously, right? But here's the thing. With the new administration coming into the White House, they've announced their plans to enact national reciprocity. And that might be a good thing. There are some things to consider that could be negative from that as well. However, in general, it's a good thing for Americans to be able to defend themselves no matter where they are. And if you already have a concealed carry permit now, and then they enact national reciprocity, you might be good to go to carry in any state in the country. And of course, regulations or standards of testing or anything else could change after the fact. But there's a likelihood that if you already have the permit, that anything thereafter would be much easier to obtain. So keep that in mind, but that's my suggestion, because defending yourself is important in any disaster scenario and just in regular everyday life. And I would suggest obtaining a concealed carry permit now, so that way, if that goes through, you're already grandfathered into a degree, right? So another thing that I'm looking to do that I don't currently have, that I definitely suggest at least considering. It's not going to be in everybody's price point, and it's not going to be reasonable or practical for every single application. But one thing I've noticed, especially witnessing the deployments to relief zones, right? So all these disaster relief situations that have been happening, even here in my town where we had wildfire issues where people had to go help each other, including wrangling livestock and removing them from the danger area. Well, personally, I think getting some sort of deployment trailer would be a good idea. Now, when I say deployment trailer, there's a couple different ways you can look at it. You could get an enclosed cargo trailer, and that's probably going to be one of the cheaper ways to go, where you still have the capability of moving a lot of supplies, or like I said, possibly livestock, or who knows what else, quickly out of an area or into an area if need be. With all the people who are going to deploy to the Hurricane Helene disaster recovery zone, they were bringing tons and tons of supplies with them. And had they had large enclosed cargo trailers, it might have been even easier to accomplish. However, even if you're just going to volunteer, having an additional trailer allows you to pack more supplies for yourself and give you more space in your vehicle if you end up having to sleep in your vehicle during that process. So there's a lot of reasons why I think having an enclosed cargo trailer would be very beneficial, even just for bug out purposes. Being able to bring more with you is always going to be more beneficial. And not to mention, you don't have to clog your vehicle up with all your supplies, and you can use your vehicle as more of a living space in the meantime. Now, you can also look at this from the utility camping style trailer aspect as well, where you have these trailers that are cargo trailers, but also convert into a sleeping space, generally using some sort of tent configuration. So that might be a good way to go too, especially when they come in a more 4x4 style of pattern, in the sense of capability of getting off-road and whatnot. That might be a good way to go in the sense of bugging out more so than just having additional supplies with you. So either way, I think is a good approach. And a deployment trailer is something that I'm going to be looking at this year for acquiring in order to be a little bit more of an asset for the community. So another prepping item that I think getting now, even not just before 2025, but just in general, that's a good idea that I have to be perfectly honest with you about. I just don't even have one still. And it's kind of silly because I am, a prepper, I guess, but and you think I would just have this already, but I don't, because it's just never really been front of mind. I've never really considered it to be a necessity because I've tried to figure out what I would use it for other than in some obscure situation. However, what we've learned over this last year is sometimes being able to signal for help, even if you're in a residential area, is the difference of getting that help, especially when the only way to get into your area is from an aerial source of some kind. So I would suggest getting an aerial signal flare of some type, okay? And of course, what that allows you to do is basically call for help from a static location without having to use any other types of devices. And a signal flare is very visible from just about anywhere. So if you don't have signal flares already, I would suggest getting one. And of course, you want an aerial signal flare device so that way it can make its way up into the sky and really ensure that people see someone over there needs help. Not to mention, it can be used for other forms of communication in case you're working with teams or who knows what else is going on. So there's a lot of practical applications there that I just am embarrassed to say I still don't have. So that's on the list and it will be had by next year. Another thing that I would add to this list of prepping items to get now, okay? And I think we'll just say, just in case you have to do things, right? I think you should have a burner phone. If you don't have a burner phone, you won't have the ease of access to communication if you're ever somewhere where you're worried about being identified, let's just say. Or if you don't want to have a GPS breadcrumb trail for wherever you go, but you still need the ability to make a phone call or send a text message, it might be a good idea to have a burner phone. A phone that has no connections to you. I don't know what for specifically, but I just think it's a good idea. So that being said, I'll show you an example of a burner phone, but if you're going to get one, please understand the process of getting a burner phone is much more beneficial if you buy one in person in a store with cash. Because the whole point of it is that you don't want to be connected to it in any way, shape, or form. You want to be able to just prepay for your minutes by buying cards at the store with cash, and then never have any association with the phone whatsoever, at least in the sense of via paper trail. So that's something I would definitely get if you don't have one already. And I'm not saying I do, and I'm not saying I don't. I'm just saying get a burner phone. Okay, moving on. Another thing we found pretty important during these recovery efforts and everything else happening in the world is not only do you need communications, but you obviously need to be able to log data, you need to be able to get work done, you need to be able to organize things logistically and everything else required of running an operation. And one thing that makes that a lot easier to do, obviously, is a computer. However, computers can be expensive or they aren't as portable as you'd like them to be. So what I would suggest, especially if you have power units like these and you're going to have, Starlink and SATCOMs and everything else, why not have a laptop to go along with it? But here's the thing. If you don't have a laptop, I would say you should get one. It's just a good thing to have, and it's definitely something that could be an asset in case you do have to suddenly evacuate. And what if you do a lot of your work or a lot of your bill paying or anything else people do on their computers on your PC and you can't bring it with you? So a laptop's a good redundancy factor. And my suggestion, because this is what I exactly did, so I'm just trying to be transparent with you to give you some ideas, right, is to go through newegg.com, which is it's kind of like the online Best Buy, let's just say, okay? So they sell computers and electronics and everything else. But one thing that I like about what they have is a huge selection of refurbished laptops. Now, some people might have had issues with refurbished products in the past, but generally I get good luck on refurbished products. And my laptop was $700 and it should have been like $1,600, but I bought it refurbished and it's running perfectly fine. And it's been excellent and it does everything I need it to do, including video rendering, which is very labor intensive on a processor and a GPU. So I would say get a laptop, and if it's been something that's like too expensive or whatever, definitely check out Newegg's selection of refurbished laptops because you're getting a lot of quality for a lot less money, which might make the difference for you. Okay, just a suggestion, and I think it's a good idea. Now, The last thing on this list, because I guess I don't want to talk all night, is something that I think would be great, especially if you're in a group or you have a large family or you're just worried about having to evacuate depending on where you live. If you live in hurricane zone, you know evacuations could be very likely. If you live near an earthquake prone area, that can happen. Wildfire areas can make it happen. There's a lot of different reasons for why you might have to evacuate. So one thing that I've been considering getting, which isn't super helpful for me here at home as much as it would be out in the field or out in a bug out location or something like that, but still a very good asset to have, would be a high capacity water filtration system. Now, I'm going to give you a direct example of that so you know exactly what I'm talking about, okay? So the Katadyn KFT Expedition High Capacity Water Filtration System is basically a hand pump water filtration system that just has a really strong filter mechanism in it that lasts forever and can produce a lot of water quickly. And that way, if you have to get drinkable water that's safe to drink in the hands of many, many people within a group, you can do so. And of course, in disaster areas, most of the water around is non-potable. So you have to have a way to clean it and you have to have a way to disperse it to people who need it as quickly as you can, because people tend to get dehydrated quickly in those areas. We're going to say quickly one more time. Now, this particular unit has a 100,000 liter filter life, and it can actually filter 4 liters per minute. So that's one of the reasons why I think it'd be a good idea to have, because if it can clean that much water for that long and that quickly, it could really help a lot of people who are struggling to get the water they need back on their feet and back into action when it comes to whatever recovery needs to occur. So obviously, a lot of the lessons learned from last year came from, Hurricane Helene, as well as all the other natural disasters that we witnessed here in the country, and from what's happening geopolitically in the sense of conflict around the world. And I thought that these things seem to have been kind of like shining on a certain level, right? And kind of showing everybody that these are necessities. Now, I will say, as another addition to the communication section, one thing that I'll be getting that, may or may not apply to your situation, and you may already have this covered, but a CB radio is something that I'm going to get in the sense of a mobile platform that you keep in your vehicle. And that way, no matter where you go, you have at least some form of publicly recognized communication that, to my knowledge, doesn't require a license. Don't quote me on that, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure you do not need a license anymore for CB radio, whereas in the past, I believe you did. So I'm going to get a CB radio installed in my vehicle so that way, wherever I am, I have access to additional forms of communication. And what we saw a lot in these disaster relief areas is that radios saved a lot of lives. So I think that's a good idea. And of course, that's something accessible to just about anybody. So that is what I think you should be getting now. And that's what I think would help you in 2025. And I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. Do you agree with this list? Do you think these items would be a good idea to have? What other items would you add to the list that you should get now in order to be better prepared for next year? Because a lot can happen between now and then, but I figured that these were things that were practical and have shown us their use out in the field, which is very important in the sense of understanding their importance. So, if you need anything else from me, you can go to magicprepper.com. There's lots of things there, so check that out. And of course, down in the description and in the pinned comment, there are going to be links that will support the channel, as well as giving you some discounts possibly. So check those out too. But like I said, always shop around and figure out what works best for you, because everybody's personal situation is different. And if you need anything else from me, you can just say hello, because I appreciate that, because I'm a real human being. And besides that, that's going to be it for Magic Prepper.